Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. We are waiting a few more seconds for participants to connect. We had over 90 registrations for this webinar and we're very glad that it triggers such interest. Good morning again. Thank you for joining this webinar. This webinar, as we are proposing today, has been developed with the support of the European Investment Bank in cooperation with Ocean Energy Europe, Estella, the European Wind Energy Association, and Solar Power Europe. It will focus on funding opportunities among instruments that offers the EIB suited to renewable energy sources. I hope you all see my screen. This is a presentation of today. Here you can see the agenda. After this short welcome, I'll present in a 2 seconds who is ZABALA. I'll explain you how you'll be able to interact during the webinar. And we'll then have about 40 minutes presentation on EIB instruments. Which I will explain you in further details in a few seconds. So I'll explain you the different presentations you will have. And it will be then followed by a Q&A sessions of about 45 minutes where you'll be able to interact and ask questions to the panelists. So from the practical side, this is the panel, the control panel that everyone sees when you're connected online. If you'd like to minimize the panel, you should click on this arrow here and you'll see the full screen presentation. To mute or unmute yourself when you'll be given the floor, you should use this little button. To see the presentation in full screen mode, you have to click here. And when you'll be, we will be in the Q&A sessions, you'll be able to, or already before, when you want to ask a question, you're able to raise your hand. And when raising your hand, will be informed here and we'll be able to give you the floor. We'll do that only when the presentation will be finished. You also have the possibility to ask questions in written form in this area of the control panel. So by default, for the moment, all the participants are muted. So very shortly, so myself, I'm Marie Latour. I'm the director of ZABALA office in Brussels. ZABALA is ZABALA Innovation Consulting was created in 1986. We are a specialized consulting firm employing over 190 consultants and present in 3 countries, Spain, Belgium, and UK. And in very short, our core activity is to help our clients to get access to funding, in particular at EU level, to finance their research and innovation activities. So, the webinar of today is about presenting some EIB instruments, which are a type of EU funding that companies are interested to get access to. Therefore, we have proposed to ask the EIB to present some of these, but only focusing on most attractive instruments for renewable energy sources. The idea is to have a practical and hands-on webinar that will allow to understand which instruments exist and what are the conditions to apply for them. We will have 3 speakers from EIB today that I would like to thank warmly for their availability. So our 3 speakers are Santiago Larregol, is loan officer at EIB. He will present the European Fund for Strategic Investment Instrument. Santiago has worked for the last 10 years on originating and structuring project funding deals in different sectors, amongst others the energy sector. He will be followed by a presentation from Milena Messori. She will focus on the Innofin Energy Demo Projects Instrument. Milena Messori is head of unit for product development and special transactions. She is responsible for managing the design and implementation of new thematic products under Innofin, specifically the Innofin Energy Demo Projects and infectious diseases. Finally, David Gonzalez, energy engineer in charge of assessing technical viability and environmental sustainability of projects in the energy sector. We will focus on the criteria for selection of projects and the types of projects that can be selected. Well, now I give the floor to our EIB speakers. So, Santiago, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Marie. And well, good morning to everyone. Marie said, thanks for joining this webinar. Well, the idea is to try to be as brief as possible for 2 things. First of all, to give you more time for the Q&A session. And secondly, because I know that it can be a bit boring to be on the other side of the presentation when this takes too long. So, as said, we will try to be quick. Let me begin first of all with can I, Marie, I'm trying to put use the following slide, but I can't.
I've given you the possibility to move with your mouse, and you should be able to change. Yes.
Now, okay. Okay, first of all, just as a quick introduction, in 2013, the EIB, well, as you know, it's a public bank whose shareholders are the EU member states, went through a capital increase, what translated into an increase of funds available for lending. Okay, so it was a capital increase, and the final amount sum up with 180 billion euros. This was the target for 2015, and these 180 million euros have been already unlocked in Q1 of this year for the objective of investing or giving more finance in up to until 2017. So in this slide you can see more or less how it works. So this increase in lending capabilities will be translated in new long-term signatures for this period up to 2017. That will come up together with the increase of signatures coming from we call EFSI, or the Juncker Plan. Why the Juncker Plan, or why EFSI? Well, all of us, you and banks, and also EIB, have experienced this last year the lack of risk financing in the market. Sometimes because of long-term risk, high funding costs for the commercial banks, or whatever it was. So the Juncker Plan of EFSI establishes a new perspective. So what do we say? And the European Commission says, okay, let's try to put a guarantee which could back riskier investments. So what they are going to try is to mobilize up to 315 billion euros in investment across Europe. So this is how it works. The European Commission is backing with a guarantee of 16 billion euros, which will sum up to the guarantee of the EIB is giving. There are another additional 5 billion euros. This amount is expected to unlock 61 billion euros at the EIB group level, so EIB and EIF, in terms of financing. That is expected to have a catalytic effect together with the multiplier effect coming from the private sector, that will translate in a final investment we expect of 315 billion euros. Well, as you see, this program uses both the EIB and the EIF at different levels. So here comes more the graphic of this catalytic and multiplier effect, so coming from 21 billion euros, unlocking the 61 billion euros at the EIF and EIB level, and together with the private investors will bring up this 315 billion euros. So the expected multiplier is based on both internal leverage capability of us and external one, whose aim is precisely that, trying to get and mobilize as much private leverage and investment as possible. Well, of course, this multiplier of 15 times is not always the same and will depend on different factors. I mean, you've got the sector, geography, project setup, and the inherent risk in each of the projects. So, which are these sectors? Well, I know that this presentation or this webinar is based more on the renewable energy sector, but just to give you a hint on this, is this unlocking financial instrument is it's done almost for all sectors. I mean, we've got infrastructure, transport, health, energy, innovation, urban development, SMEs and mid-caps. So we are trying to cover all the sectors available in the market. And now it comes what I think is the most important thing or issue of this presentation. What's the difference with before? The difference with before, it's that some counterparts, for example, in the last months, have been calling us, the EIB, since they heard about this first time about the Juncker plan. And the question is always the same: what can we do to apply for this new financing? And the answer is also always the same: send us the project, send us that project that you couldn't close it in the past before there was no finance in the market. So maybe you were trying to finance something and you couldn't find enough senior debt at that time, or maybe there was no bank available for long-term financing, and you left that project in the bottom of a box, forgetting it. Now is the time you put it again on the table, because now we are capable of taking more risk. But don't forget that the eligible projects and the eligibility for the EIB is exactly the same than before. We have not changed that. The only difference now is the risk the EIB is able to take. Now we are trying to cover that gap that existed in the past. Maybe you needed mezzanine or subordinated debt or something, or almost quasi-equity risk that could cover that gap that you had in the past. Now we can do that. So show us the project. I mean, the main thing we can tell you now is show us that project that you couldn't finance in the past, send it to us, and we will try to analyze it in a different way. So together with you, we will try to find what you need, because maybe, as I said, there was no senior debt available at that moment, and you needed some subordinated debt that no one could offer to you. So now we are here to cover that gap. Who can apply for it? Well, you've got the counterparts here, everyone: SMEs, mid-caps, public sector companies, national proportional banks, for example in Spain, ICO, we are working with them. But I said, and I think my colleagues will comment that later, Milena and David, this is not a blank check from the EIB. So to push for a project, this must be eligible, as it was before in terms of economies, technical, environmental, and must be a bankable project. So I think now I leave you with Milena.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. I will now move to a different instrument that we have within the EIB range of products, and this is Innofin. I would first of all say that FC, what we have heard before from Santiago, is nothing new, in the sense that Innofin, which is the successor of RSFF, has already put in place an instrument where we benefit from the credit enhancement provided by the capital of the European Commission. In the case of FC, this becomes a much larger entity, so the size, obviously in this case, is different. Oops, what did I do? I must have done something wrong with the... No, where is it? I think it's here. Apologies to everyone. Okay, we are back in business. So what I was saying is that Innofin is based on the same principle than FC. So we benefit from a credit enhancement that is provided by the budget of the European Union. Here, the how do you change? By doing...
Sometimes work, sometimes not.
So here the amounts are much different. In FC, what we heard before, we are talking about 16 billion plus 5 billion. So altogether 21 billion put aside to guarantee on a portfolio basis the losses that we might incur in financing projects. In Innofin, we are talking about a much smaller amount, namely 3 billion euros, which already is a quantum leap compared to what was available under RSFF, only 1.2 billion. Innofin is only targeting research, development, and innovation. So, I mean, it's a much smaller number of investment that can be financed under Innofin, because there are certain eligibility criteria. Before we heard that FC can finance a broad range of sectors. Here we are talking about, yes, a broad range of sectors, but primarily research, development, and innovation. But with these 3 billion, we foresee that we will be able, at the end of 2020, to demonstrate investment for up to 24 billion euros. And again, through the fact that there is a multiplier effect. By investing in certain projects, we allow for the crowd-in of other financiers. Innofin product overview, this is the slide you have in front of you, consists of many different products. Some of them are implemented by our sister organization, the European Investment Fund, and this is what you have on your left side. These are products that are targeting small and medium enterprises. On the right side, you see that there are also advisory services that are provided either to financiers or to possible beneficiaries of projects. This is something new that was created under Innofin. And at the center, you see what are the range of products that the EIB can finance. So there are products targeting mid-caps, product targeting large corporates or large projects, and finally this thematic finance, which we which we have introduced with an amendment to the delegation agreement, so to the agreement that governs Innofin, the agreement that governs the relation between the EIB and the European Commission. These amendments were signed only in June this year during the Innovation Conference in Riga, and they have allowed for the launch of 2 new products, what was mentioned before during the presentation of what I do. So the financing of projects that are targeting infectious diseases, and what is of interest today, so the energy demo projects. The Energy Demo Project is a facility that allows the EIB to take risk on first-of-a-kind demonstration project in the energy sector. So this is a facility that allows us to provide direct lending to projects for up to 75 million euros. I have, however, to mention the fact that we are starting with a pilot. The pilot is, for the time being, quite small. It's only 100 million euros for the time being. So you can understand that we would target much smaller tickets, I would say of up to 25 million for the time being, in order to have some diversification in our portfolio. What this instrument allows us to do is to take risk during the development stage of a project, but also commercial risk. And therefore we can provide a broad range of instruments for financing either projects on a project finance basis or corporates with corporate loans that can be either senior or subordinated or mezzanine, and even up to equity type instruments. For the rest, we follow the normal due diligence process. So the EIB, you might know that, can finance up to 50% of the project cost. So the rest has to come from other financiers. Any project that is submitted for us for financing is subject to a comprehensive due diligence, which range from the technical due diligence to the financial due diligence and the legal due diligence. We are trying to simplify our procedures, so in most cases we would prefer to have the finance contract that we sign subject to either English or Luxembourgish law. Here you see what are the eligible projects under this facility. Is anything that falls under the label renewable energy and hydrogen and fuel cells. As I mentioned before, these have to be projects in their pre-commercial stage, so we are financing new technology that have passed the pilot stage, the proof of concept stage, prototype stage, but they have not yet reached commercialization. We offer, as I said, very interesting terms in our financing, and we can go up to 15 years maximum loan maturity. And as I said before, the maximum loan amount would be 75 million. However, while this is for the time being still not something we can reach because we don't have much money available for our credit enhancement from the Commission, being this a pilot, certainly there is a minimum amount below which we are not ready to go at this stage, which is 7.5 million. Having a minimum in ticket of 7.5 million means that the total project cost has to be at least 15 million. Anything that is below this amount is not of interest to us, simply because we don't have the resources. We are a bank that does the due diligence internally, and we don't have sufficient human resources to dedicate to much smaller projects. So for anything that is smaller than that, we prefer to go intermediated via funds and this is in the clean tech is certainly the EIF, our the main point of contact. This is how the facility is set up. As I mentioned before, we benefit from a credit enhancement, or if you want, a cushion that is provided to us to cover losses on a portfolio basis, and this is what we call first loss piece that is absorbed by the capital of the European Commission. As I mentioned before, we have for the time being 100 million dedicated to this for 2015. It's a pilot, and we plan to extend this pilot by another 50 million next year. The idea is that if this results in a success, and we will see it over time, then there will be opportunities either via the Commission or possibly other financiers to enlarge this facility. So the guarantee, and again, it's a guarantee on a portfolio basis, so it's not provided to each single transaction. The guarantee is only provided during the first 3 to 4 years of the project, when the project is subject to a very high risk in terms of design, construction, and early operations. Once this time has passed and the project starts its operation, then the guarantee is released, so the project fully falls under the books of the EIB, so full risk on the EIB books. That also obviously means that once we appraise a project, we are very careful to see that indeed the commercial risk that we are going to take after the development stage has been successfully completed has to be such that that it falls under the maximum level of risk that we are normally willing to take. So we are very careful in analyzing whether there is a market potential for the new technology, and if we believe that this is not the case, we will not proceed with the project. And the reason is that after the 3-4 years of development, when we benefit, when we as EIB, we benefit from the guarantee of the Commission, then these guarantees is supposedly going to fall apart or be released, and therefore we need to make sure that the risk that remains with EIB is reasonable. As I mentioned, there will be at the very beginning, so during due diligence, we will define what are the technical and financial guarantee release tests. So the test that will have to be performed once the development stage has been completed and once operation have started. These are tests that are both technical and financial. So there has to be evidence of project completion, achievement of minimum technical performance, and it has to be proven that the project is now fully operational. These are aspects or tests that will have to be confirmed by an external advisor, because at that time the risk is no longer borne by the European Commission budget, but falls fully under the EIB books. I will now pass the floor to my colleague. I'm willing thereafter to take any question that there might be on this facility. Thank you very much.
So, hello. I will then look into explain the eligibility criteria for renewable energy projects in the bank, both for EFSI and Innofin. And then we'll talk about two cases, certainly not Innofin cases, but innovative projects that we financed through the RSFF facility. So in terms of the eligibility criteria for renewable energy projects within EFSI, as Santiago mentioned before, these criteria are exactly the same as if we were talking about a standard EIB loan. And in terms of renewables, that boils down to a two-pronged strategy. On one hand, we support mature renewables, and those are renewable energy technologies that we consider that must be competitive against a least cost fuel solution, and that basically means that we calculate the economic cost of this alternative, of this fossil fuel alternative, to compare it with the levelized cost of electricity of these mature renewable energy projects. And those are, well, you have them in the slide. It's onshore wind, biomass, hydro, conventional geothermal. Those are the technologies that we consider that have had enough learning and enough deployment to be benchmarked against a fossil fuel alternative. In terms of the other side of the eligibility is what we consider emerging technologies, meaning those that they're still behind in the learning curve. They still need to reduce their costs, but they have a prospect of becoming competitive in the medium term. Those are, for instance, PV, CSP, offshore wind, ocean, wave, etc. So those don't have any benchmark to fulfill, meaning that we understand that the costs, we will indeed compare their costs, both unit costs and generating costs, against similar projects, but there is not a benchmarking exercise that has to take place. In order of, on the other side, in terms of the Innofin, well, FDP as in first of a kind demonstration projects, or EDP as in energy demonstration projects, peu importe, we have we look into again, by definition, they will be emerging renewable energies, so there is no economic benchmark to be fulfilled, but in addition, they have to fulfill certain criteria that I have listed below. So mainly that they are in a commercial stage and they are an innovative technology, meaning that they have been demonstrating their commercial viability, but they have a demo plant or a test project, but certainly they have not put up commercially. They can be replicated, and it's not just a one-of-a-kind opportunity for a particular project. They're ready to be demonstrated at scale, meaning that they can scale up in there. For instance, if we look at CSP, it would be thinking, and I'm taking an example off the top of my head, molten salt parabolic troughs in a small demo facility that it can afterwards be developed into a commercial, into a larger scale commercial power plant, and there is possibility to scale up to further higher installed capacity. The projects, they have to be in an advanced development stage, meaning that they're not just an idea, but there has been work in feasibility studies, in resource assessments, in permitting, because again, we're talking about commercial projects, and they have to become a reality in the short term. They have a prospect of bankability, meaning that indeed they are able to basically to repay the debt, because in the end it's a loan, a riskier loan, but it's still a loan. And then there must be stakeholders that are willing and able to co-fund, either with equity, with shareholder loans, with mezzanine loans. So they can be promoters, sponsors, operators, etc. But there must be co-funding stakeholders available for the project. Then in terms of, I will go quickly, but in terms of the two cases I wanted to present, those are all projects which were financed by the RSFF facility, which was basically an antecessor of Innofin. The first one is Andasol 1 and 2. I mean, the two projects that were financed. I mean, they were the first large-scale CSP parabolic troughs with molten salt in Europe, and they were indeed the first of a kind of a large deployment of this kind of projects in Europe, in Spain in particular. In terms of, you have there the capacity, the generation, but in terms of the investment cost and the financing figures, you can see that roughly there was a substantial amount, more than half of the EIB financing that was done non-recourse. On top of that, one of the projects had received EC grants due to its innovativeness. So we were able to achieve this kind of amounts and these financing conditions for this particular technology that indeed was seen as interesting but quite risky at the time, thanks to blending to let's say to an EC instrument that was similar to Innofin. And the same applies for Gemasolar. This is, again, here is the first commercial molten salt central tower in the world. Because before there was indeed Solar 2, but that wasn't a commercial project, or it wasn't intended to be a commercial project. And we took a substantial amount of financing on a non-recourse basis, and there have been, I mean, have had teething problems, but we've been able to find solutions and to make ourselves comfortable with the risk level, thanks partly to RSFF, and the same rationale is the one that would apply to Innofin FDP. So then I think I'll leave the floor to the audience for your questions.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentations, Santiago, Milena, and David. So now we are going to open the floor for questions. We already have a few of them that participants have sent in written. So Gerd Schrader is asking, at which point in time can potential projects apply for support under EFSI and Innofin, respectively? Are there special calls for proposal or periods for application to be borne in mind, or can projects hand in application at any point in time? And the second question, are projects outside Europe also eligible? From Gisele Nunes Cordes. Please, the participants, if you have further questions, we can open the floor for you. Just raise your hands and we'll unmute you. So please, I don't know who wants to answer, whether Santiago, Milena, or to these two first questions.
Okay, I will take the first question. I mean, there is certainly no call for proposals. This, I mean, just to be clear, we're not the commission. We don't give grants. We are a bank. So if you have a project, meaning you are in, you have developed, as I mentioned, for instance, in the case of Innofin FDP, if you have plan your work in terms of resource assessment, there is a feasibility study for the technology. You're looking into, or you have already, if this is an innovative technology, again, I'm focusing on Innofin, but that could be applied to EFSI as well. If there is a third-party assessment of the technology and whether it's workable and ready for commercial operation, and you have a site, you have begun your permitting work, you are in the process of environmental assessment, then please do come to us. Indeed, you have you have other financing plan, and you have an idea of who would be financing with which instruments. I mean, you have equity, you have commercial lenders that you are talking to. Then indeed come to us, and we'll sit down. So there is not a specific call for proposals for any of the two instruments. It's the approach is business as usual. You have a project that is in a say advanced to fairly advanced development stage. Come to us. We sit down. We see what kind of information we need to do our appraisal, and we do our internal process to be able to finance it or not, depending on what is there.
I will take the second question concerning the geographical eligibility. Indeed, for FC, so for the European Fund for Strategic Investment, this is limited to the 28 member states. For Innofin, it's not just the member states, but also the H2020 associated countries. So there are a number of other countries that are eligible. And in general, I would say that a requirement is that the promoter is established and operating in one of the 28 member states and H2020 associated countries, but the project can also take place outside this area, this geographical area. This is for Innofin. For the energy demo projects, and I'm sorry for this further complication, but this is unfortunately part of the game. Being this a pilot, we have taken the view together with the Commission that for the time being we would focus exclusively not only on promoters established and or operating in one of the 28 member states and associated H2020 associated countries, but we are taking the view that also the project costs have to be incurred in one of these countries. So while Innofin has a much broader scope, geographical scope, energy demo project activity is limited for the time being to a country, a member country and an H2020 associated country.
Okay, thank you very much. We have many more questions coming up. I hope Gisele and Gert that the answers were satisfactory. I'll move to another participant, Alberto Rocha. You've asked the question. You can speak now if you would like to.
Hi everyone.
Please.
First of all, thank you for this webinar. I think it's really interesting for the interest on the industry in general. So my question is related to two things. First one is, when do you expect that can be a reality the first project using these mechanisms? And the second one is related to the contact person in the European Invest Bank who discuss with them a possibility that we are developing at this moment.
Okay, who would like to answer? Alberto?
Marie, if you could repeat, because the sound was very bad.
Alberto, you can talk louder, please.
Okay, Alberto, can you repeat? So I understand that you would like to know when are expected to have the first projects ready, and who should be contacted in EIB for the projects you are launching now?
The first question is about the timing. If you have a time in your mind to have the first project ready with these mechanisms, and the second one is in relation with the contact person that you have in the European Investment Bank for CSP project, because we have something really in a good state of development. I want to discuss in a business casual basis about this project.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, regarding FC, Alberto, on the first question, when the first project will be approved under FC, we have had a couple of projects already approved in the bank for FC, and we are working on some others right now. So it's not something that is stopped and we are giving you a presentation. It's something that is live. So we are receiving projects now, and some projects have been already approved inside the bank. Regarding the person to contact, it depends of the geographical situation of the project. So I will tell you to contact, probably you've got a GRM within the EIB. If you don't have a GRM at the EIB, just try to know who is the person responsible or the loan officer in each country you are looking at. So, for example, if it's in Spain, try to contact the Spanish division in order to know more about this.
Okay, because maybe I can be more specific. Can I contact David González García directly?
Sure, sure you can.
Okay, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna say.
If it's a CSP project, indeed, please do.
Okay. So I'm gonna send you an email this afternoon, just to be in contact. I've been talking with Andreas Heinz 1 week ago because I've been in Luxembourg, but he's more focused on wind. So in this case, we have two options: wind offshore and also CSP. So in case of CSP, I'm gonna send you an email to you. Okay, David?
Yes, sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry, go on.
No, I was saying that for any project relating to the energy demo projects, first of all, indeed, also like FC, we are now looking at a number of projects to appraise. We have, I would say, a pipeline of 40 projects that have demonstrated interest in the facility. We have retained, I would say, 30 of these initial batch of interested promoters. Of these 30, we are moving into due diligence on, I would say, 4 to 5 projects. So we are now taking interest from counterparts, and we are looking at these initial proposals. Our first step normally is to send a questionnaire that the promoter has to fill in to ensure that the project meets the eligibility criteria, and based on this questionnaire, then we start analyzing the project by getting in contact with the promoters. Anyone who is interested in receiving this questionnaire can send an email to a mailbox that has been created for this facility, which is called Innofin FDP, first of a kind demonstration project. So FDP at EIB.org. And there will be somebody replying, sending the questionnaire, and answering any question that the promoter might have.
And just regarding your question, Alberto, do copy that mailbox when you contact me, so like that they have if it's if you're interested in Innofin, If it's only FC, we can deal with that with the geographical divisions. But if you're interested in Innofin, do copy the mailbox Milena was mentioning in order to have all the, so everybody has all the information.
Okay, we will go on. We have many more questions. Jacob Bergveld, you had several ones. We'll open you the floor now if you would like to formulate your questions. You're able to speak now, Jacob.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had a question if Tidal Energy projects would be eligible as well under the Innofin program, especially under a non-recourse project finance situation.
I can take the answer. Yes, I can confirm that tidal, so in general marine energy and tidal or wave energy is certainly eligible under the energy demo project, and we do provide financial instruments based on non-recourse financing. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. And would the EIB in that case follow the other banks in the consortium, or do you have specific requirements in terms of leverage, loan tenor, and other requirements?
Okay, so normally we have to negotiate not just with the promoter, but also we have to analyze what is offered by the other banks in the consortium. What I can say is that we don't normally participate in syndicates, so we do our due diligence on our own because we follow specific procedures internally during our due diligence. But at the end, if there are other financiers, most probably there will be need for an intercreditor agreement to be signed with the other financiers, where there is an alignment of terms for the financing of the project. So although we don't participate in syndication, we normally come to an agreement which is codified in intercreditor agreements with the other financiers.
Okay, clear. And which countries in Northern America would fall under the list of associated countries you just mentioned?
Northern America?
None.
It depends. What do you define by if Mexico falls into Northern America? They tend to say yes. Nothing. No, sorry. I was thinking. Yeah, excuse me.
No.
Alaska, the US, those countries all are not eligible.
Associated countries for H2020, they are EFTA countries, so Norway. There are neighboring countries in the Balkans. There is Israel. There is Turkey, but certainly not Northern America.
Okay.
Okay, let's move. We have a question from Alfredo Parres. Alfredo, if you would like to ask it, the floor is yours.
Yes, good morning. Quite simple and straightforward question. It's about confidentiality in the project submitted to EIB. So since this is public funding banks, I was wondering whether confidentiality of content of projects and goals of projects is granted.
Of course, it's granted, and we also are open to sign confidentiality agreements as we have done in the past. So,
yeah, we have a standard confidentiality agreement that we're happy to sign with promoters.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a question from Federico D'Amico. Interesting question on the possibility to combine funding. We don't hear very well Federico D'Amico. There is a lot of background noise. I will ask the question. Federico would like to know whether if you can confirm that a demo project can be combined with Innofin and funding from the EC, such as Horizon 2020 and ERANET.
So if I understand correctly, the question is whether financing under Energy Demo Project facility can be combined with Innofin.
Yes, and Federico has another question concerning a demo offshore wind project. Where to find where first-of-a-kind technologies will be tested eligible for Innofin?
Testing.
Where to find it? Sorry, I didn't get.
He would like to know,
where to find it?
Is it a demo offshore wind project where first-of-a-kind technologies will be tested eligible for Innofin?
So whether the technology, yeah, okay, let me take the first one. The EDP or Energy Demo Project Facility is part of Innofin. So we have created a specific compartment under Innofin in order to finance first-of-a-kind demonstration project. And the reason is that before, even under Innofin, since the cushion that the Commission capital provides under Innofin is much smaller, is only 14% of the total portfolio of financing that the EIB provides, we were not able to finance under the normal Innofin instrument this kind of first-of-a-kind projects because of their high level of risk. So the reason of creating this facility was indeed to allow us with a much larger cushion, up to 95%, allow us to finance this very high-risk project. So obviously the answer is Energy Demo Project already is part of Innofin and was created because we would not be able to finance this project otherwise. So it cannot be combined, if you want, because it's already a special case created for the kind. In terms of eligibility of technology for offshore wind.
Yes, I mean, well, first, Federico, again, I didn't really get if you were mentioning Innofin plus H2020 grants or not, because I think in that case that they could be combined. There are limits that apply, but they can be combined. And then regarding your question on the testing, yes.
Sorry, it's Federico. Just to clarify, because now I can talk. So if I can clarify both questions. My first question was, yes, if a project, a demo project, let's say in development, that is more or less at an advanced stage of development, if a project that has been already awarded an H2020 funding or ERNET or a combination of the two, can be also considered eligible within the Innofin funding scheme. That's the first question. And the second question is about the maturity of the technology. So if an offshore wind demo project that is testing first-of-kind technologies can be considered eligible within Innofin instrument.
Yes, I mean, the reply is yes in both cases. The only thing, again, is that because I did here testing, I mean, the Innofin bit, the Innofin tranche, is a loan, so it needs to be paid back. So if it's going to be done on a project finance basis, the project will need to produce some electricity that is paid, and part of it will pay back the loan, roughly.
Yeah, I can also say that under this Energy Demo Project facility, what we aim at is financing the stage after the prototype. So there has to be a prototype that has shown to be successful, and we will finance the demonstration at scale of the new technology. Normally, if you're familiar with that, is the technological readiness level 7 and 8. This is what we will normally look at for financing under this facility.
Yeah. It's clear, and everything's
Okay, let's move on. We have Tomas Mucha asking another question. We'll open the floor. If there is too much background noise, we'll have to mute you, Tomas. So let's see. Please.
All right. Hi, everyone. The question is, I think, going to Milena. So after the guarantee release period, the energy project needs to fulfill basically the requirements for the market and normal operational risk that EIB would take. But can you tell a little bit more on what these requirements are for the project? For example, the interest coverage ratio or some other financial ratios that need to be met by the project?
But I would not be able to give you numbers because it very much depends on a project-by-project basis. So what I can say is that if it is an energy production plant, then what we would look at the very beginning, so during appraisal, is the existence of a PPA for a certain number of years, which covers the life of the project, or at least the repayment maturity of our loan. But I just would like to mention the fact that we are not, under this facility, we are not only targeting energy generating plant, but also companies which are producing new equipment following new technologies. So in that case, what we will look at is that there is a market potential for this new equipment. Say, for example, new turbines with new specificities, or equipment for marine energy or tidal energy. So it's very, I mean, the only answer I can provide, it's very broad, and it is the project as we define it has to demonstrate that the cash flows that is going to generate it is sufficient to cover, obviously, not just the operating cost, but also the service of the debt. Or if it's not that, what we are providing, because it could be equity type instruments, then we will look for a return of our investment that is commensurate to the risk that we have taken. So we will look at getting returns out of our investment.
Okay, all right. I understand this complex question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Theo van der Kammen that have asked also a question. Would you like to ask it directly, Theo? Theo, the floor is yours. We are hearing background noise. I can ask the question directly. You are saying that you work for a Tidal Energy company with a commercial scale prototype built and a test site grid connected and cable ready on the seabed. When they approached Innofin for support to demonstrate their device, they were told that the project as described has been deemed by our specialists as not sufficiently mature to qualify under the new energy demo. I don't know if Theo, you can speak. So your question is, what technologies is Innofin set up to support, if not a TRL6 tidal demonstration project? Theo, if you're online, you can complete your question. Okay, well, probably Milena, you can answer if you understood the question, or another speaker.
Can you repeat the question, please? I didn't get it.
So the question is, what technologies in Innofin setup what technologies can you support if not a TRL6 tidal demonstration project? So at which TRL level need to be the projects so that you can support them? So the technology readiness.
Well, sorry, I already mentioned before that is TRL 7 and 8. So the prototype has to be already implemented and proven to be successful. We will not finance prototype stage.
Okay, thank you very much for this clarification. Let's move on. Thomas Bianchu, you had a question. Did you already get the answer to it? You're able to speak. Okay, Thomas Bianchu from, no, not sure where you're from. Okay, let's move on. Cristina Rodriguez, you were asking a question. Would you like to ask it directly? Okay, then if you're not ready to ask, let's move to Stephen Jeremy. You had several questions, Stephen. One of them is on, it's still about tidal energy projects. Please ask your question directly. Okay, well, it looks like there's a lot of people who had questions, but either they have left or already got the answer. So I will ask people who have raised their hands to ask the question. Ivo Arnes, would you like to say something? We're giving you.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, very well.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to ask for something you might not be able to respond. But you've mentioned earlier that your involvement would be on tickets at least of 7.5 million, which puts the project costs on 15 million at least. I am more interested in smaller scale projects that might not reach that ticket. We're trying to start projects within the smart microgrid area in the UK and Ireland as well, and we would, and these tend to be smaller, dimensions. So I was wondering, you said we should channel these to the funds. I just wanted you to elaborate a bit more on who we have to contact and what are the different products, if you know, you can answer.
Okay. For anything that is of a smaller size than 7.5 million, as I mentioned before, we would rather suggest to contact the funds that are financed by our sister organization, the European Investment Fund. The best way to do that is to send an email with you know, with a description of the investment to innofin@eib.org. So it's different from Innofin FDP. It's a general mailbox for Innofin. There will be somebody who will be then sending the information to whoever can answer the question. So innofin@eib.org. This is the mailbox for our Innofin products. Does this answer the question?
Thank you very much. So I'll progress that. Thanks very much.
Okay, Cristina Rodriguez had a question and she cannot speak. She was asking how long usually take all the process since one promoter starts to negotiate the project until a final decision from EIB is made?
That's a good question indeed. Well, as we've been saying almost always, it depends on the project. Example, we've been able to close a project in just 4 weeks, but other projects take like 3 or 4 months. So it depends. If everything goes as it should go, we are able to close it within between 1 month and 2 months if the project is with the due diligence in place and the answer to all of our questions to the questionnaire from our engineers. So in theory, under FC, it should take maximum 3 months, but it should be able to be closing in between 1 and 2 months. I don't know if nothing is exactly the same, but I said it depends on the project and the due diligence process.
Okay, thank you. We'll give the floor to Gerd Schroeder again, who had further questions. Gerd, would you like to ask them now? You are able to speak now. Gerd Schroeder, yeah? Okay. We have a few more questions. One was from Stephen Journey, that several of them he had, that we couldn't was not speaking now, but so he has a project on tidal energy. They have designed a tidal energy installation vessel that can have the levelized cost of energy for tidal energy power plants. Would this be eligible for investment? I guess we already answered that. So they would like to have the email links. It would be nice if you could repeat the email address. I couldn't write it down, and I'll show it to the participants. Milena, if you can give this email address.
Yeah, for FDP is innofin@eib.org. Otherwise, for a general request on Innofin, just drop the FDP, and so you have fdp@eib.org.
Okay, let me know if I wrote it properly, so I can show it to all participants. Is that correct?
What do you see? We don't see anything, but...
You don't see the presentation?
We do see the presentation. Innofin, I think without Innofin, FDP.
Yes, F as in Florence.
Okay, fdp@eib.org. Okay, I'll make it clearer when sending the presentation around. So we have another question from Garrett Connell. He's asking if the EIB can provide debt finance to projects that have been awarded grants, and would this create a state aid issue? I'm not sure this is the same question. Yeah, okay. Maybe Garrett, if you're online, you can explain your question, develop it. Garrett? Okay. Well, it seems that Garrett is not. Garrett, are you online? Okay, let's move on. Federico D'Amico, who spoke at the beginning, has a further question. Federico, would you like to ask it?
I think I already asked both questions.
Okay, perfect. So I believe we have no more questions.
Marie, can you mention something? I just see now that the way you wrote Innofin FDP. FDP will have to be with capital letters. I don't know whether it makes any difference, but it's okay.
It doesn't make
okay,
any,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't make any difference, but
Yeah, vitamin might not matter. Okay, doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay, I believe we don't have many more questions. If anyone wants to still ask a question, may I ask you to raise your hand at this point. Otherwise, I believe most questions have been answered. So this presentation is going to be sent around to all participants later today or latest tomorrow. I would like to sincerely thank again warmly the panelists. Maybe you have, if you have anything else to add at this point, or that you would like
just to thank all of you and the interest in on the webinar. So thank you, Mari, for organizing everything.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. I hope this was useful for the participants. We'll make a short survey after this webinar that you will receive. So let us know what you thought about this webinar, and we hope we can propose this type of format of interaction more often. So thanks again to all participants and to the panelists for your presentation and the detailed answers. Yes, so you received the presentation and the contact email for further asking further questions. Thank you again, and hear from you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ya está. ¿Está? Sí. Se acabó. 13 minutos antes.